Big Money Rustlas leads a daring existence. But that can be said about all things Insane Clown Posse. It's a fan service movie, which is less about cinema and more about a very elaborate type of merchandising. It's the thing that happens when some public entertainer who isn't involved in movies decides adding a movie to their brand is the next step to leveling up. And as the pattern goes, these movies are almost always hated by the broader audience. Any given fan service movie's audience ratings follows the same curve. You can see the normie curve here, and then the odd deposit of stan votes at top. To many, this is like graffiti on the walls of an art form. But you know, there's something unconventionally beautiful about these movies. There's just so much that movie people look for in a movie that these productions just can't even possibly begin to even care about. Like, no expensive looking action, no mainstream humor, and a story handled with less importance than the on-set catering. These movies have one purpose, and that's to showcase entertainers who have no business being in movies to a group of fans with tastes too weird to be represented in typical film. And then these self-proclaimed cinephiles are just hilariously scandalized when they see something that's not made for them. These fan service movies are like perfect normie troll traps. And that is what I think is beautiful about them. Upsetting film bros is hilarious. And who is better suited for this type of practice than Insane Clown Posse? At every stage of their career for decades, they've been a well-known trigger trap for stiff normies. All they've ever done is cater to and grow their audience, and people have just ruthlessly hated them.
What's your problem with us? You suck. You suck. They don't show your videos on MTV.
So it's just so bad you just want to fight.
I'm not going to say it's hard for me to imagine why someone would be put off by a Juggalo. It's almost artful how they've managed to just maximize their stank. They're a takedown of maturity, cleanliness, and manners. Where some rappers rap about booty, ICP is constantly bringing up ball sacks. They even have a whole song written about pubic lice. But who else blends carny and Detroit junkie aesthetics so perfectly? Why shouldn't they have more movies? These are where the artistic mutations that keep art evolving come from. So I have an appreciation for ICP movies because at the time there was a wave of rappers merchandising with these low budget movies. And most of them were all meant to be these like puff pieces. Does the ICP need a puff piece? Hell no! They have no dignity. I mean, they did the right thing and made a semi-self-deprecatory comedy. Even though they once again skipped the chance to make a sick horror-adjacent movie, which, if I had to guess, really has more to do with budget than anything else. You take away all the horror themes from ICP and what you're left with is humor that's only suitable for people with self-inflicted brain injuries. So if you like the idea of Happy Madison for Juggalos, let's dig in. Something that's usually going to happen in fan service movies is lots of cameos. It's just a fun thing to do when you have a whole clique of people who aren't in movies usually getting a chance to make one. You know, just gas everyone up in your crew by giving them IMDb credits. But I do think it's fun because it just makes the whole thing feel more communal. I mean, of course, there's the cameo king himself, Ron Jeremy. Whose parents does this kid belong to? And not all people may know that Vanilla Ice is down with the clown, and so he has to show up. They also gave a significant role to Jason Mewes from Clerks as Sugar Wolf's deputy after he sends the old useless sheriff off to find chili for him.
I'll get you chili, I'll get you chili.
Which is a little side story that's another great opportunity for more pointless cameos. Like Tom Sizemore, for example.
Hey, you're Hollywood icon Tom Sizemore.
Yes, I am.
And I have to point out that both the bigger celebrities that got to be in this are Tom Sizemore and Bridget Nielsen, who both showed up on VH1 Celebrity Rehab around the same time as this movie, which just feels like the most Juggalo celebrity cameo possible. Like, don't just give me any two random celebrities, give me two that are on their way to mandated rehab. Big Money Rustlas was sort of a healing process from their Dolomite spoof Big Money Hustlas. A healing from not having the set experience they wanted, a healing from the budget stifling their ideas.
Forget about Dolomite. The budget on the flick ran out for Dolomite. He took off running. What do you think, he's gonna do this shit for free?
And a healing from the not-so-great ideas that did make it in. So, like, in a justifiably lazy move, they basically just remade the already thin story of the first movie, with Shaggy 2 Dope chasing crime boss Violent J out of town. Except instead of spoofing on Dolomite, they spoofed on Blazing Saddles, because that's another one of Violent J's favorite movies. I mean, my guess is that they just got a connection from the Paramount Ranch and thought that their movie would look a lot more slick on a famous stock set. But instead of Big Baby, Violent J plays Big Baby shit. And I'm not lying, it took me a while to realize it's because they gamble at the saloon, and it's not because of potato chips that that's his new name. And he, of course, still has Twisted as his hype men, who still think rewording Violent J's lines is hilarious.
So? Some motherfucking what, man? Yeah, so the fuck what?
And instead of Sugar Bear, Shaggy 2-Dope's playing Sugar Wolf. And, you know, while we can cynically scrutinize these choices as like lazy or greedy, but there is something to it that I think reveals what's both likable and perhaps unlikable about these movies. I mean, it feels like ICP approached these movies with a sense of almost childlike excitement.
First movie of many what do you call a hit movie?
Blockbuster?
There you go. Blockbuster smash hit.
For them, I feel like their attitude is like, why are we stressing about stories when we're getting to pretend like we're starring in our favorite childhood movies right now? All that really needs to happen is just need to make each other laugh on set, and what more can you ask for, right?
Man, our hair ain't even red, bitch! So your joke ain't funny. I couldn't think of shit.
You know, from one angle, it's inspiring. From a different angle, it's men in their 40s goofing off like middle schoolers.
I said whore, not horse.
Ooh, Miss Angel?
Yes.
Yeah, I fingered her a couple times.
I mean, it's a comedy with a Ron Jeremy cameo. It's honestly all you need to know. More so than Big Money Hustlas, the backbone of this movie is sexual innuendo. Which, to be clear, is different than a sex joke, okay? There's plenty of ways to make funny jokes with sex. This movie's more like, hey, that horse has a butthole, zoom in on it. Like, why bother with the whole setup and delivery of a joke when you could just pretend to jack off on camera? And beyond that, these old-timers are bringing back some classic all-time comedy with some over-the-top stereotypes. Like, just when you've recovered from them dressing an indigenous psychopathic records artist as an old-school Indian and then having Shaggy sign all their hatchets, in comes a white guy named Mike Jury to play a Mexican stereotype called Dirty Sanchez.
It's as polluted as a fat chick's ass after running a marathon with no underwear, man.
I mean, it's almost comical how many chances they had to realize that this was really messed up. So apparently they had like this other white guy cast to play this character.
Hola, neighbor.
And later replaced him with this other white guy after he coached him on how to fake a Mexican accent. Like, who could be so obstinate as to think that this is still a good idea in 2010? Well, it's men in their 40s doing sex and potty talk to be funny.
I can't wait to turn that little muffin out.
Although I do kind of like Sugar Wolf's gay stereotype brother Sweet Wolf, but that's because you could tell the actor is actually funny.
Cut that out!
He's also at least actually gay. You know, but then again, the Japanese geishas in their scene also looked like they were really Japanese, and that was still pretty messed up, so.
Get the scrubbing.
But I want to argue that this is the sensibility of a Juggalo who didn't travel outside their city much growing up and only had Looney Tunes to relate to other cultures. Like, no joke, I actually think that they think this is positive multiculturalism. But listen, when they go so far as to blend both their gross sex jokes and racial stereotypes in the same scene, it's there I can officially say it's unforgivable.
You know?
Dripping down your chin across your glistening chest.
Naturally, I mean, that's what it does, you know? That's what happens when you make good, delicious butter, you know?
But let's not just ignore the comedy in this movie impressively improved since Big Money Hustlas. Not only does Violent J say, "My money less," best of all, Shaggy 2-Dope doesn't have to rhyme his lines anymore. You know, since watching the first movie, I've come to learn just how singular Shaggy's squirrel brain sense of humor is.
We're taking the fucking, like, somebody's gonna turn a dolphin bitch on, and she's gonna get fucking turned on. We're gonna scoop some juice out and use that.
Which just drives home the fact that forcing him to rhyme his lines in Hustlers was just one of the worst ideas ever.
It's weak. Looks like you got a little jelly donut shit up on your cheek.
The one thing I think they really got right with this was leaning into the cartoonishness of it all. You'll notice right away how much effort and visual interest went into these animated opening credits for the Insane Clown Posse movie, with an ICP-style country rap song, which is something I'm sure the world was just waiting a long time for. And while some people might prefer the innocent simplicity of the first one, it does feel a little like they thought doing pimp dress up on camera was funny enough on its own. But here, there's a lot more seasoned little moments that play out like a more trashy Looney Tunes. You know you're in for something weird when the old sheriff sounds like a Mel Blanc character.
At your service, Sheriff Frederick Freckles, at your service.
Wrong.
Well, apparently didn't let anyone know he was going to talk like that until he actually started shooting. And everyone just rolled with it, which kind of gives us a clue about what type of production this is. Big Baby and his goons are of course shaking people down for money, but there's a little self-deprecatory balance to those.
Punk! Man, get the fuck back! Get the fuck out of here! Man, I hate you, motherfucker! I hate you!
And one of my favorite gags is this comically fake-looking gloved hand on a stick they use to have Sugar Wolf slap everyone he meets with. I mean, it shouldn't be, but almost every single time it was funny to me. Just look at the kinetic poetry of these cuts.
Does it hurt? Oh.
And I have to say, between both movies, they've rarely let me down on my drip checks. The colors and prints in these costumes are just an incredible pop to an otherwise bland Western environment. And even still, some of the sets that show up are sick. Like, look at Big Baby's taxidermy den. And I'm never gonna forget the Juggalo horse and carriage. And while the story is pretty much the same thing as we discussed, it is a little more full too. In this one, Sugar Wolf is returning after his father, Ron Jeremy, was run out by Big Baby, who ruined what was a peaceful town. I mean, just look at this guy. This place is out of control. So he's returning to his widowed mother to redeem the town.
I'm gonna clean this town up.
And while she may be written as a prostitute in a wellspring of tasteless sex jokes,
you here for a tug? Or are you gonna tap this?
Mama?
she's also a clown, which verifies my long-held suspicion that juggalos are their own species, evolved from mutations caused by Detroit pollution. That clown makeup is not painted on, it's genetic. So Sugar Wolf declares himself the sheriff and vows to redeem the city, but the townspeople don't really have any faith in him. And what's a better opportunity to do that than having the only black actor in the film committing a crime for him to stop? But no, it's fine. We've written more than one song dissing the rebel flag. Come on. And then this is where Sugar Wolf's love interest comes in, who you might be surprised is played by Bridget Powers. The level of surprise depends on what you've been doing on the internet, but I guess you might know her by one of Howard Stern's famously clever nicknames.
Very beautiful, Bridget the Midget.
And we get to finally witness Sugar Wolf's subtle flirting techniques.
We can get together and I could plow that little ass of yours.
And I just have to admit that Shaggy falling in love with a large woman in the first one and then falling in love with a little person in this one, it is hilarious to me. I tried to not think it was funny, and it just is. And also, she's just genuinely awesome in this. Despite whatever limitations she has, she gave a very physical performance that really added to the visual comedy of this thing.
Start quick!
Hey!
Now that Sugar Wolf's officially made himself known in town, the middle act of the story has Big Baby episodically sending out different assassins to go kill him. And it's here where this movie does exactly what it's supposed to. Any opportunity for action in the first movie was totally glossed over, with the exception of Mick Foley. I mean, are we gonna allow these guys who claim to be professional wrestlers actually move on camera for once? The first assassin is psychopathic rapper Boondocks as the Ghost. A character that's more actualized than Party City Ninja costumes? And would you believe he shoots lasers out of his eyes and actually blows stuff up? And now maybe if you've just recently watched some Michael Bay movie, that doesn't seem like much. But if you just watched Big Money Hustlas, this is like seeing TV in color for the first time. It's totally great until it's all ruined with a cameo of Dustin Diamond making a poop joke.
I didn't even get a chance to wipe!
Okay, maybe the battles aren't that much more epic, but dude, there's gore effects. Horror gore effects in a Juggalo movie. Now the battle that ensues with the next bad guy, I have no complaints about. Look how beautiful this is. Elements of stank, Juggalo cameos, and cartoonish visuals come together in a perfect combination with the Foot, played by Too Tough Tony, the underground Juggalo wrestler, who I'm guessing probably wasn't that great with lines because he only is able to shout one thing over and over again. But he's also probably one of the few people that was cool with being dragged by a horse. But I mean, at the end of it, this scene reaches a level of nonsensical chaos that just defies any criticism.
I'm the butt!
Now, there is a third assassin, but I don't really think I should completely spoil that at this moment.
We had sex. That was the only part I enjoyed.
But what's important to know about this scene is that not only does his hand get shot in a moment that proves that if you can't afford expensive special effects, just make it look ridiculous and it'll be amazing. But Deputy Jason Mewes also suffers a beautiful death scene by the hands of a vengeful Big Baby and his goons. And now there's no easy way to defeat the final boss, Big Baby. How can they possibly win? Well, we've seen the first movie, so it's obviously going to be a silly montage of Sugar Wolf getting his slap back. Will Sugar Wolf save the town from Big Baby and his goons? Will the old sheriff ever get that chili? You'll have to find out in Big Money Rustlas.